Time to take you through the first grid of 25. It is Heat 1 for E20. So, the starting grid will be as follows. Tees Dams, runner-up last year in E20 Juniors and also third at the Grand Finals in Portimao last November, starts on pole position. He'll be joined by Poland's Thomas Ibsen on the front row. Then it's Mats-Johan Overhoff in the 755 from Germany. He'll be joined by the pole setter in Senior Masters, Chile's Hector Ramirez. Emma Svensson will line up on the inside of the third row with Andreas Matis, the organizer, well, the main man behind RMC Germany and distribution of products in both Germany and in Austria on row 3. Rainer Born and Kaz Poldermans. Kaz Poldermans, a journalist in the Netherlands, being mechanicked by none other than Ella Spiezia from the United States. Also, we have the Canadian contingent in a little bit more force this year, courtesy of Frédéric Lemieux and Antoine Lemieux, of course, siblings. Frédéric, she will start on pole position, both being coached by legendary Canadian Rotax racer himself, Scott Campbell. Then we've got Christopher Holst and Arthur Lorimier from Switzerland and France on the back of the grid. It will be a standing start, so the seniors and the senior masters will go on the first set of red lights when they go out, and then the juniors will be released shortly afterwards. So our flag marshal walks to the back of the senior and the senior masters grids as the power of silence propels us into the 2023 season. Lights are out, we are underway, and a good start from Tees Dams. Ibsen looked to the outside early doors, but then had to slot back in behind. Now the juniors have gotten underway as they filter their way through into turns 1 and 2 on the opening tour. Top 3 have already broken away at the front end of the grid, so Tees Dams leads the way. Some overtaking happening a little bit further back as the Mats-Johan Overhoff Superfan Club has gotten into overdrive, cheering their man Eln, who's now up into second position as they make their way through turn number 9. As Tees Dams leads them into turn number 10, the fan club roars with great approval, cheering their man on. So Ibsen down into third. And then Emma Svensson has got herself up into fourth position overall, but also fourth into the senior classification. And it's Germany's Andreas Matis that leads the way in the senior masters classification, ahead of Hector Ramirez, Rainer Braun and Kaz Poldermans. And at the minute, it's Christopher Holst from Switzerland who leads the way in E20 Juniors, followed by Antoine Lemieux, Arthur Lorimier and Frédéric Lemieux rounding out the E20 Junior grid. 5 minutes and 35 seconds still to go. And at the front of the field, going through turn number 8, it is still Tees Dams leading the way. Mats-Johan Overhoff did make an appearance on the Project E20 at the Portugal E-Cup late last year to try and qualify. As Ibsen looks up the inside through into turn 10, the Polish driver gets through on the German. Back up into second, goes the 756, but Overhoff will not let that go by any stretch of the imagination. And now Mats-Johan Overhoff gets the slipstream, gets the side draft and goes across the line in front of Ibsen and into the run into turns 1 and 2. Hard on the brakes for the German driver, 16 years of age, based out of Marl. But that has allowed Tees Dams to get away and clear. His lead was just over 6.5 tenths after the previous lap. We're now on to lap number 3. Christopher Holst still leading the way in the Project E20 Junior class, and Andreas Matis still leading the way in the E20 Senior Masters classification. He's currently in 5th overall. Drivers making their way back down from turn 9 as Overhoff goes defensive on Ibsen from Poland for that second position. Fastest lap of the race is by no coincidence the race leader, Tees Dams, with a 56.660. And Andreas Matis is actually closing in for 4th overall, trying to get past Sweden's Emma Svensson, but yet to facilitate that move. But Mats-Johan Overhoff still holding in second position at the moment, the 755 ahead of the 756 from Poland. as they go down the Europalan. These carts will max out at around 130, 135 kilometers an hour. They'll also have the added usage of the boost function, which is a 5-second deployment of additional power. So a total of 24 kilowatts of total output as Ibsen tries to go for the dummy. Coming out of turn 9, Overhoff was wise to it, through into turn 10 and went back into the defensive position, which is, of course, the traditional racing line. But Ibsen looking to line up and move through into turn 12. Overhoff has to hit the brakes to avoid any contact, but then gets the run coming out of turn number 12. He will be using the boost at this point. Switches to the outside and has to hold back. And Andreas Matis looks up the inside of Emma Svensson. But it is now Antoine Lemieux from Canada that is now leading in Project E20 Junior, having gotten the move done on Christopher Holst from Switzerland. As they make their way through into turn number 6 and onto the Europalan once again. But Teesdam's lead is now 1.5 seconds and climbing. We've got 2.5 minutes plus an additional lap still to go. Battle for second position in E20 Senior, very much up for grabs because it's been nip and tuck between Ibsen and Overhoff at this particular moment. But the 4 drivers from E20 Juniors are not that far apart from each other. Give or take about 0.8 of a second off the previous lap. As Overhoff is closing in for second position again, going into turn number 1 and 2. The juniors make their way out of the final corner. And the E20 juniors are catching and passing Germany's Rainer Born in the number 804. So this is Heiner's first chance to test out Project E20. Normally runs in DD2 Masters. Now it's 2, maybe, well, and Lorimier has just gotten through on the 804. But Teesdams continues to lead. There's just under 1.5 minutes of this first of 3 heats. Teesdam's lead now was 1.7 seconds, but Tomasz Ibsen from Poland has closed that to 1.6. And Ibsen has just set the fastest lap of the race, 56.484 seconds. There's a little bit further back. Frederick Lemieux trying to get through on Rainer Born, but was unable to get through on turn 3. And with the boost function on the E20, you can use it for a maximum of a 5-second deployment at any one time, but then it is a 30-second recharge cycle. These carts will accelerate from a standing start to 100 kilometers an hour in around 3.5 seconds. So we now go on to our penultimate lap of this race with 21 seconds on the timer remaining. A bit further back, well, Andreas Matis has got, that is Antoine Lemieux closing in on the 887 from Germany. And Overhoff was looking for a move up the inside of Svensson, but then Antoine Lemieux gets through. And the timer now has expired. We're on lap number 8 out of 9, and Teesdams makes his way through into turn 7 off of the back straight on the Europalan for the penultimate time. So Antoine Lemieux did get pole position provisionally before a bumper penalty post-qualifying, where only one driver did not get a penalty. That was Frederick Lemieux, who ended up on pole position. She's currently 10th overall. As we're now on to the last lap of the race itself. And Teesdam's lead now drops to just over 1.5 seconds. And that was Christopher Holst getting past Emma Svensson, going through into the 12th and final corner, as these drivers now facilitate their way round this final lap. Teesdams makes his way through turn 8 for what's going to be the final time. Last year it was Taze Stevens that took the E20 Junior title. So a Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals ticket will be available after 2 rounds. So this and PFI, but it is going to be one driver that's going to win this race, and it is Taze Stevens. Out of the final corner comes the Belgium, and he takes the checkered. Second, Tomasz Ibsen. Third, Mats-Johan Overhoff. As we now wait for who is going to win, it is going to be Antoine Lemieux. Fourth overall, wins in E20 Juniors. And Andreas Mattis is going to be pipped at the line. Oh, dearie me, I think that was... Well, I did see that Hector Ramirez was showing as a lap behind, but I'm not too sure. But he managed to get the run on Andreas Mattis. According to the timing, it is Andreas Mattis that provisionally takes the win in E20 Senior Masters. But Taze Stevens wins in Project E20 Seniors overall in Heat 1 by 1.576 seconds ahead of Tomasz Ibsen from Poland. Germany's Mats-Johan Overhoff rounds out the top 3, and it was Antoine Lemieux from Canada that took 4th overall, wins in Project E20 Junior, ahead of Switzerland's Christopher Holst, then Emma Svensson, Andreas Mattis, Arthur Lorimier, Frédéric Lemieux, Rainer Born, Kaz Poldermans, and Hector Ramirez showing down in 12th position.